you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for our regularly scheduled Board of Commissioners meeting here April the 4th, 2022. We will start the meeting with the invocation being delivered by our manager, Lance Metzler, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance delivered by or led by Tony Reese. If everyone would please rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for all your gifts and wisdom that you give to us to make good decisions on behalf of our populace of Rockingham County. Please help us to turn to you and search for answers so that when decisions are made, they're made for what is pleasing to you. Look after our Board of Commissioners and our staff to provide the leadership that you have asked them to do on your behalf, and help our board make decisions that will make positive impacts to our community. We ask that you bless us, look over us, and give us strength to lead with honesty and integrity. In God's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank both of you for doing that for us.
Sir.
And next on the agenda is a recognition, commendation for professional efforts. Rodney Cates, if you want to.
Yeah, come down there if you don't mind.
Come down here is fine.
So most of our staff is here, but I will present this to everybody. On Wednesday morning, 16 March 2022 at 7:05 a.m., the 911 center received a series of emergent calls for service reporting a structure fire with trapped children. Telecommunicator April Poole, April, if you'll come up. She answered one of the first calls. Some of the other calls that came in, Jennifer Bond. Jennifer, if you come up. You all can come around here if you want to. You can join me. Jennifer began taking some of the other calls. While these ladies began to take these calls, the other two female telecommunicators that were in the center that morning, Tabitha Farmer.
I think you should.
And Angie Gorley, if you would come up. They began to take a call which was very, very tragic in nature. It was the fact that there was a structure fire with trapped children and possibly a trapped adult in there as well. The 911 world is very stressful within itself, as our people can certainly testify to. But when you take a call of this magnitude and then you have four mothers that are working in the center, and you have knowledge that there's a trapped child, that magnitude of that stress goes up much, much higher than it normally would. It's only human nature that we then look at that call and we say, that could be me, I could be me in that situation, or as these mothers on that morning said, that could be my child. Later that morning, they were joined by Keith Dunn. Keith, if you would come up. Keith came in at 8 o'clock and immediately began to take calls and provide resources. And at 1 o'clock, Frank Fix. Frank, if you would come up. Frank came in at 1 o'clock. And at 1 o'clock, we say, well, this call came in at 7:05. Well, the call was still going on at 1 o'clock. Many things were still going on. The efforts of these telecommunicators range from answering 911 calls, dispatching numerous resources, directing media requests to the proper personnel, and even the procurement of portable toilets to the large staff that was there on scene. While completing these tasks that were associated with this one call, and this was continuous throughout the day, other telecommunicators, this entire staff, dispatched an additional 289 calls for service on that day. I received a message later on that day from a responder from another part of the county who did not have to respond to this call, and he texted me and he said, if you would please relate to your dispatchers this morning, they did a fine job under the pressure, and our thoughts and prayers are with them at this time. Later that week, we attended the Fire and Rescue Chiefs Council, and it was again noted in that the outstanding job that these crew did under the massive level of stress that they were under. So tonight, each of these telecommunicators are highly commended for their steadfast efforts that they displayed on this date. All the 911 efforts are always stressful, but a tragedy that involves children magnifies this stress level exponentially. So we congratulate each of you on a job well done on this call. Thank you.
going, guys?
Very good, very good.
Some pictures. Hey, it's up in there. It's workers' comp.
So you might as well go ahead and do it. Am I right? Man, that cleaned that room real quick. What time's the game start? Okay, we got plenty of time.
And as you see, those ladies and gentlemen never know what they're going to come into when they walk through the doors in any given day. And their teamwork is vital to keeping us safe. Next, before we move forward on the consent agenda, I do want to introduce our new clerk. Ms. Susan Washburn has been with the county for 9 years, and we certainly appreciate and thank you for coming and working with us at this point. And Susan Washburn over here, ladies and gentlemen. So it's a new face for y'all to see. Next on the agenda is the approval of tonight's agenda. I do believe that there are some slight modifications on the agenda. One being the amount listed under item number 8. It should read not to exceed $21,160,000 instead of $21,260,000. So that's one modification. And I believe there's also has been some discussion where we want to pull, I think it's item 6D, and move it down. Let's see. You good with putting it between 9 and 10? Is that good? Okay. And we'll put it there off of the consent agenda. With those modifications, do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Powell,
Second.
second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. These items are generally non-controversial in nature. If you have any questions about matters under the consent agenda, you can contact the county manager, Lance Metzler, or his staff, and they'll be glad to forward information on any of those items. With that, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So move.
Second. Second.
Second by Commissioner Travis. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. No one signed up for public comment. So we will move on to our public hearing. And who is doing the presentation?
Mitch.
Mitch? Okay. Y'all can come down, please.
We are required to have a public hearing to move forward with the financing for the RCC Workforce Development Center project. We've run some numbers. We have a proposal ready to move forward with for your consideration. And we have Mitch Bergoglio, which is with Davenport. He's with our financial advising firm that helps us crunch all these numbers and figure out the best financing plan. So I'm going to turn the presentation over to him.
Okay.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you all for having me this evening. We have a brief presentation for you all tonight summarizing the current financing approach being recommended. And in your packets, I believe you had a more detailed presentation included. Certainly happy to dig in further as desired. But I'm just going to hit some of the high-level points for you this evening. So what we're what we're working towards financing, as you know, is the Workforce Development Center at Rockingham Community College. The intent is for that to be funded through the Article 46 sales tax that was approved by voters. This process has been in the works, the planning process, since 2018, as you all know. And so we've gone out and evaluated two different financing approaches, a direct bank loan approach, and we went through an RFP process for that. We got 4 responses, evaluated those responses. Truist was the bank that was the only bank that provided a rate that was fixed through May 9th, which is our current estimated closing date. So we're currently anticipating closing will occur in early May after local government commission approval. So we have a bank bid in hand from Truist Bank for a 2.25% interest rate and a 15-year term. That rate is fixed again for the life of the loan and will not change so long as we close by May 9th. That loan does have a prepayment option on it, should you choose to prepay it for any reason. So you have a choice of prepaying it at any time with a 1% penalty, or after the first half of the loan, you can prepay it with no penalty. So you have a couple options there for potential prepayment if you should choose to do that. The other option that we've been evaluating is a public market sale. Y'all have been through, the county has been through this process before where you get a credit rating and you sell municipal bonds. In this case, they would be limited obligation bonds to the public markets. Under that process, we would need to get approval from the local government commission, again in May, before we could sell those bonds. And the interest rate wouldn't be locked until those bonds are sold. So we'd be floating with the market under that approach until mid-May timeframe. The prepayment provisions associated with that would be a 10-year non-callable period. That is the traditional non-callable or prepayment option for the public sale. Right now, that interest rate is about a 2.71, so higher than the bank loan option. That varies over time. The relationships between the two ebb and flow. There's been at times, we've looked at this even recently, where the public sale option was a lower interest rate. The other key component here in evaluating the financing approach is the project cost estimates. So right now we've been working, and the information that you'll see was originally based upon a $19 million project amount. Those bids are going to come in on April 7th, so we'll know the final project cost or be closer to knowing the final project cost after those bids are opened on April 7th. I know once those are open, the community college will be evaluating those. As you can expect and what you've seen, and we understand inflation is real at this point in time, and anticipating that bids may come in higher than previously estimated. We do have a not-to-exceed loan amount of up to $21.16 million. So the public hearing this evening will be for a loan amount of up to $21.16 million. Without further action by the board, that is the not-to-exceed amount that will be established. Okay? Page 3 shows you the comparison of both a $19 million project cost as well as if you go to the full not-to-exceed $21.16 million amount. A lot of numbers on this page. Summary is the bank loan at the lower interest rate is giving you your lowest total interest cost. For a $19 million project cost, it's currently anticipated to be lower interest by, or lower total payments by about $680,000 versus the public sale. And then if you were to go to the full amount, $21.16 million, the direct bank loan with Truist would save about $735,000 over the life of this loan. All the financing costs and other ancillary costs are all built into this analysis as well. I think one of the key things for you to be aware of also is on page 4, the cash flow analysis. I mentioned earlier that the intent is for the Article 46 sales tax, which was approved to fund workforce development in the county, is expected to cover the annual payments on this loan. And what we've shown for you on page 4 is based upon your current sales tax revenue. And so this is based on what you've actually received, $2.4 million. No growth has been assumed in that sales tax revenue. You can cover the 15-year debt service payments with Truist, and plus an allowance for operating costs, and still have a surplus of, on average, about $500,000 a year. So there's a little bit of cushion baked into that plan. So no growth. I think that's a fairly conservative, at least for the short term, given where we are with inflation. No growth in the sales tax. You can cover your 15-year debt service with Truist at the highest amount, not to exceed $21.16 million, plus the allowance for operating costs, and have some cushion should there be a dip in sales tax in the future, or to fund other workforce development related costs. So based upon that, our recommendation in consultation with staff is to move forward with the Truist 15-year proposal that is locked in. You're locking in a rate that's currently better than the public market sale. You're getting slightly better prepayment provisions with Truist. Time will tell, in mid-May if we made the right decision on that, if interest rates decline, but we've been in a generally rising interest rate environment since the beginning of the year. So, certainly there's factors that could cause interest rates to decline or come back down, but overall, the tone of the market is a rising interest rate environment. So if you choose to move forward, obviously we're holding the public hearing this evening. And we would ask that you, if you choose to move forward, approve a findings resolution tonight, which will give staff the authority to submit to the local government commission an application to issue debt, and will approve moving forward with this Truist Bank proposal. After that, working with the community college, get bids in hand, finalize the borrowing amount, and come back to you all on April 18th for your final action. That will be the final action needed to approve the bank loan ahead of the local government commission approval in early May. If we're able to accomplish all that, we can meet the closing deadline of Truist by May 9th. If things slide, if we're not able to get those approvals done, or we're not able to get approved by the LGC for the May 9th closing, then we'll need to go back to Truist and request an updated rate, and it'll be reset to the current market at that time. That's a lot of information that we covered quickly,
Yes, sir.
but happy to dig in and answer any questions.
And one thing just to make clear is that last point he said is if we don't meet that May 9th deadline, then we'll have to go back to Truist to reset the interest rate, and it could be a lot more than what it is now.
When does LGC meet again?
May 3rd. So we need to make that meeting if possible.
Yeah, and they have an application deadline of April 5th, which we're already in good shape to get the application submitted. In fact, we've submitted a preliminary application, but we do have to finalize that application with the y'all's approval as well as the final project bid costs.
All right. Anyone have any questions before we open the public hearing? No? All right. We will open the public hearing. No one signed up to speak during the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience tonight that wants to comment during the public hearing? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. And now, would LGC, yes, sir.
Question for Dr. Kinlaw. Yes, sir.
Question from Commissioner Travis.
Kinlaw, my question is, as you heard the gentleman talk, that you're expecting to have a surplus every year of around $500,000. What is your intentions with that surplus?
Tony, you want to come up and help me with this? We've already laid out a plan over the next several years with obligations. We've, for example, our IT2 building, we're getting ready to renovate and expand our welding capacity, and some of those funds, quarter-cent sales tax, will be directed to that. That's also a state bond project as well, so that will help finalize that project. That's one example. We have ongoing IT needs every year to rotate computers out, stay up to date with technology. That can be as much as $300,000 and $400,000 a year. There'll be other projects on campus that we'll need to do that we may not even know about right now, just depending on what happens on campus. But there'll be other workforce initiatives that we'll put funds toward. In fact, we started our construction trades program at our Scale Street site. Some of that's quarter-cent sales tax. So those types of things we'll be continuing to invest in, and that's what we really marketed to the public.
We've changed the Workforce Development Center into a broad scope of workforce development. Is that right? Broad scope.
Well, the building itself is geared toward certain programs, which you know. I mean, that's computer integrated machining, industrial systems, electrical system,
Right.
and such. But then the rest of what we do, yes, it's a broad array of things that we can do to upgrade what we can do from that capacity. Yes.
That's what I was trying to bring out to you, because when we pitched the sales tax increase for workforce development, the main thing was talked about Workforce Development Center.
Yeah, that's
Okay,
the
that
primary.
was the main thing.
That's the primary investment,
So
correct.
we've
Yes.
expanded, I'm just letting the public know, we've expanded to workforce development is workforce development.
Sure.
Okay?
Yes.
So I just want the taxpayers to understand, just because we're spending this money on Workforce Development Center, it's other things that the community college
Oh,
does
absolutely.
for workforce development,
Right.
that this sales tax money is going to be used to.
It's a good point. We've already done some of that. We have a cybersecurity lab, for example, a new IT lab, the construction trades project. So yes, those will be ongoing types of investments that we'll make.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to.
With the surplus. So yeah, that's secondary to the building, but it's things that this college is going to need for many years to come. So yeah, this is a broad scope for workforce.
Right.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
That's why I want to get the public, and I'm hoping the college will help with this to let them understand the sales tax revenue that we passed on the ballot wasn't just for a center.
That's right.
It's for workforce development, period.
Right, over a long period of time.
For a
Yes.
long period of time. So it's an ongoing thing. So that's why I just want to get that information out there before we vote on this, so people know the sales tax just wasn't for the building.
That's right. It's just the primary investment, but and we'll be able to look going into the future, what the job demands are here, and then we'll gear our workforce development efforts toward that. So yes.
And I think overall, the taxpayers, that's what they want to see, the workforce.
Yes.
A broad scope. Thank you
Right.
so much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you.
Mentioned it's going to cost more to operate, so it's.
That's right.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Seeing no other questions, will LGC accept us approving this with one motion for both of these, or do we need to do separate?
That'd be a Mitch question. Can they do both or individually?
So I believe the resolution, and
We can do it separate. I mean, it doesn't need to be complicated. I just,
Say,
You know,
It's two separate motions.
The two actions, one is just the LGC, the resolution. The other is a capital project, or it's an internal capital project
Okay.
ordinance and budget.
Okay, that's what I was just double checking. Everything for the LGC application is wrapped into the single. There are the two actions, I guess, the public hearing that was held, that's checked that off, and now you just have to consider the findings resolution for the financing part of it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So do we have a motion to approve the adoption of the resolution authorizing the filing of the application for approval of an installment financing contract? Do we have that motion?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Powell, second by Commissioner Travis. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. And next,
Thank you.
we need a capital project ordinance approval. And the budget change request is indicated on your agenda. Do we have a motion for that?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hall, second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye.
Thank you, Dr. Kinlaw.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is presentation in regards to Shiloh Airport. Right here for that presentation.
He's got it on here. Yeah, excuse me.
Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
Thank you, members. I'd like to just briefly go over what our plans are for the grant that we were so fortunate to receive for the $7 million for the improvements over at the airport. As you all know, for several years now, we have been maintaining a waiting list for folks wanting to base aircraft out at our airport. Unfortunately, just due to the geographic limitations we have had there with regards to site preparation, the costs have just been, prohibitive, and we just have not had the money to move forward with that. So fortunately, what we plan to do, if you will, the map that I have there is just to get you oriented because it can be a little confusing. You'll see a top and a bottom section. The bottom section, you'll see Settle Bridge Road along the bottom part of the drawing. And the airport is generally oriented north and south, the south being down toward the river at Settle Bridge, and the north being Highway 135. The top half of the drawing, over to the left, on the top half of the drawing, that blue area, which is Area 5, I do believe, that is the northernmost point, and on the bottom half is Area 1 is the southernmost point. So because of our main area of concern is Area 3 and Area 3A there on the map. And if you go out to the airport, that is the area between the old fixed base operator hangar where Dave Sexton is based now, and going south to the new set of T hangars there. And that is the area we plan to, we're probably going to focus on that. But we know that with the funds that we have been granted, we've got 5 total areas we would like to develop. Our more immediate concern, obviously, is areas 3 and 3A. And to see, our strategy is going to be to, we're going to put all this out for bid. We're going to put all 5 sections out for bid for site development and hangar construction, and just see how much money we have left over at the end. We'll know how much money we have to spend.
Greg, hold on for 1 second. You said 3A. I'm trying to find 3A on here, and I can't find it.
I can't see this, so if you don't mind, I'm going to look at this. I'm sorry. I was thinking about 4A. It's area 3.
Okay.
I apologize, gentlemen. I couldn't see.
It was 3.
It's area 3.
Uh,
That is the area that has been kind of a thorn in our side for a number of years now. There's so much earth that needs to be moved there before we can tie that area into the existing taxiway, that it has just been cost prohibitive. We had a potential client last year that was considering building a 100 by 120-foot hangar and constructing a maintenance facility for jet aircraft there. And the development, just the prep work was going to be so cost prohibitive, they ended up going to Memphis, Tennessee. So this couldn't have come along at a better time. It is, our intent is to get, like anything we do and y'all do, is to get the biggest bang for the buck we can get. And what that means for us is to get the most site prep we can get done, and at the end of the project, have some structure in place that we can have a return on revenue with. So we're still very early into the engineering phase of this. I'm sure it will be at the earliest next year, probably 2023, before you actually see anything change there from a how it looks perspective. There's a lot of engineering to be done, and bid process. The last 2 projects we've done, the biggest challenge we have faced is actually getting someone to bid on the project. Our fuel farm project we put that project out for bid 3 different times, and the last time we still didn't get but 2 bidders on it. And paving contractors now, they're wide open. The cost of everything is unreal. So that's our biggest challenge, is just getting somebody to bid on the projects. Any of you guys that work around construction know how that goes. So I will have updates later on. Like I said, right now, we're still in the very early phases of this, planning phases, engineering phases. And I will entertain any questions.
Just, Mr. Chair, Greg, if you could tell them just where the funding came from for this
Yeah,
project?
absolutely. I was going to save that for the end, but okay, yeah. This was a grant from the state. It was, I think, largely due to Senator Berger. He was very instrumental in this, as well as some of you gentlemen, and we greatly appreciate it. It is a very it's a very generous grant, and we do plan to put it to good use and put it to work for the citizens of Rockingham County.
And one other question, how many hangars are supposed to go on there?
Well, if you look at this plan, there's 2 sets of what we call T-hangars, which are small hangars for privately owned aircraft. And we can put either 4 or 5 corporate-sized hangars in Area 3. Chances are our money won't go that far. We just have to see how that plays out with material costs and so forth. At the very minimum, I would expect to get, after all the site prep and tie-ins to the taxiway, the ramp work and all that's done, I would be very displeased if we come out with less than at least 1 full set of T-hangars and 1 large corporate hangar. And when I say large, I'm talking about 100 by 120, something of that nature. The problem we have with hangars now, a lot of corporate folks, 60 by 60 used to be a kind of a standard size hangar. You could build a 60 by 60 and you could get a guy in there, because a lot of corporate guys had King Airs or Piper Cheyennes or something of that nature, a little bit smaller turboprop aircraft. These guys are getting into a pretty good-sized jet aircraft now, and they won't fit in a 60 by 60 hangar. If you build a 100 by 120-foot hangar, they say it's too big, and they don't want anybody else in there with them. So it's kind of like Goldilocks, you know, it's what's just right. So you kind of, it's a little bit of, gambling going on when you build a shell hangar like that. But we've got 20 right now, as of today, we've got 28 people on the waiting list wanting to get out there. Out of the 28, you can generally cut it back by a third and probably have that many that are serious. So we can fill them up. And I'd like to take a chance to say while I'm here to thank all you guys for your support over the years. You guys have been great, supporting the airport, recognizing the importance of it. Lance, you've been a big help, as well as Pat with the finance department. And we made some big swings about 2.5 years ago, and with our staff and so forth, and it's really paid off for us. So we've got a good board, we've got a good staff, employees out there, and you guys need to come out there and take a look at it. I think you'll be pleased.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
I got one.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Richardson.
In general, I understand that there's a whole package that you're interested in, but in general, your priorities are site preparation, hangars for corporate, hangars for private.
Yes, sir.
And it'll be some time before you're able to define those priorities closer.
Yes, sir.
And is there potential for a build-to-suit? Do you have any potential clients that would fall in that category? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we get those from time to time. We got a gentleman out there now who is erecting a hangar. Yeah, we don't turn anybody down. You know, if you're willing to give us money to put your airplane out there, we will talk to you. And that's why we're there. We're here, you know, to enhance the county.
We got you. I'm happy with the motivation. Do you have any potential renters that want to lease the land and build the hangar themselves?
Not at the present time. And the biggest reason why we don't is because of the cost of the site preparation. We don't have the money to do, well, we hadn't had the money to do it, and they're not willing to pay to do it. So that's the motivating factor behind the emphasis on the site development with this grant, is we can get that out of the way, and it puts us in a position that if somebody does come along wanting to build a hangar, they can. They've got a place to do it.
Okay.
That's all I got there.
Any other questions?
Well, just to clarify, if I could, thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I heard is you feel like if you had a site that was already level, that you'd be able to sell that and potentially have other investors come in to put hangars on that. Is that what I heard?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Bragg. We appreciate you being here tonight. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell has a question.
So if somebody comes in and they want to build their own hangar, they're going to buy the land, they'll own the land and the hangar?
No, sir, they will lease that piece of land. And after an agreed upon number of years, then that hangar reverts over to airport property.
Isn't that one of the problems that we got into the last go-around, where we were supposed to retain ownership of them and we ended up paying them for their hangars?
Yes, it was. And the biggest problem with that was the language that was written into the lease. The lease was fairly loose, allowed for a lot of interpretation. And we have one that we're beginning now. We had a slab that was where a tenant passed away. The family took a hangar with them. We are building the tenant is erecting a new hangar on that existing slab. And that lease, I assure you, is pretty tight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is showing on the agenda, item 6D, Rodney Cates, I believe. Is that?
I think that there was a question that popped up about that
Yes.
you all wanted to address.
Yes, as far as financing and,
Yes.
are you going to handle it then? Instead of
Just,
Rodney?
there was a question that popped up about the funding of the rescue squads and how much the county in the past had funded the rescue squads, because in the EMS, the report, it doesn't clearly tell exactly what was funding the rescue squads. Just want to make sure it was clear to the public what's been done so far.
Annually, they get, it's worked into the budget. Annually, they get $62,000 apiece. It's $186,000 that goes into the budget each year. And they requested, I guess, through finance to receive that. We also have contracts with Madison Rockingham Rescue and with Eden Rescue to do convalescent transports. The county also has a convalescent transport truck, but they augment that service in which the billing company collects 7%. The county gets a 3% charging or processing fee, and the rescue squads get 90% of the collected fees from that convalescent transport.
You know how much that is?
Historically, one of the last times I looked at it, between the two, it's over $1 million. Madison Rockingham contracted to do convalescent transports with us back in 2017, certainly, so they have the more historical data. They're bouncing right around historically 950,000, somewhere in that neighborhood last time I looked at it. Eden Rescue came on board in 2019. They're around the $450,000 mark.
Any questions from Mr. Cates or Mr. Metzler in regards to any of these numbers?
No, we appreciate knowing that and having the public know that. That's clearly an indication of support for those rescue squads. They perform a good service.
They help us out tremendously on that side. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is proposed procedure in regards to public hearings. And I'll hand that over to Mr. Metzler.
Thank you, Mr.
I believe
Chair.
that's in your packet,
So,
gentlemen.
yeah, it's in your package and it's at your desk. It's what the procedures to conduct a public hearing. The proposed changes to the public hearing procedures have been, I talked to the chair, the vice chair, spoke with legal and the director of community development. The current procedures, as you see, are very old. They're just numbered 1 through 10. The proposed public hearing procedures provide a clear process on how the public hearing should be implemented. In bold, these are what I would suggest are action items by either the staff, the commissioners, the public, and or the applicant. This, again, is for a blanket for all public hearings, not just planning and zoning. If they have a planning and zoning quasi-judicial meeting, hearing, there are more procedures that have to go with that, but this is just regular planning and zoning procedures. The proposed procedures provide time limit expectations where the other one doesn't. You've got 15 minutes for the applicant, and this is for anything. It could be a planning and zoning, it could be somebody presenting as a presentation, and then it's got, if there's a time for public hearing for the public, there's 3 minutes and up to 30 minutes, and then the applicant, if it's planning and zoning, has opportunity for up to a 7-minute rebuttal. I did not put in there, which I did put in front of you at your table, to put each speaker should clearly state his or her name and physical address when he or she approaches the podium. Again, in my opinion, it's a better tool for you all to use and for any chairpersons to be able to follow. Again, this is a good policy, in my opinion, because it's for all public hearings.
And it actually provides, looking at the old or the current procedures, there was little to no organization
That's
laid
correct.
out and the procedures.
This is just a
So-
systematic way for chair and future chairs to be able to follow and future staff members.
Keep in mind, these are for legislative type hearings. I can't think of an instance where this board would hear a quasi-judicial hearing. At that case, I mean, of course, the procedure would be quite different, but this is for legislative.
Yes, sir.
hearings.
Thank you.
I would ask you all to consider approving the proposed public hearing, new proposed public hearing procedures.
For Lance, I certainly appreciate Lance's work on this, and I think it will provide some clarity and uniformity moving forward. So I do believe we have a motion by Commissioner Powell, second by Commissioner Richardson. All in favor, let it be known by the sound of aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any new business items? I believe as of earlier this afternoon, there were none. No business?
Yes, sir.
New business? Okay, next is Commissioner comments. And we'll start, Commissioner Hall.
Mr. Chair, it was exciting to hear the presentation by Mr. Bray about the airport tonight. That is great news for the community. As we all know, that airport is our front porch for economic development. So this is good news, and I would especially like to thank Senator Berger and Representative Pirtle for their work to get this money brought back to the community. So I'd like to thank those gentlemen, and again, thank you, Mr. Bray, for being here tonight. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bray, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. And I appreciate Dr. Kinlaw and the RCC working hard for this work center development. I think everybody on this board will agree they're kind of excited and ready for it to start groundbreaking soon. We've been waiting a couple years now, so I'm glad to see that happen. But most of y'all know, I guess over the weekend, last week, that the old American Tobacco warehouse had a huge fire. I just want to say a big thank you to all the fire departments, rescue squad, fire marshal's office, sheriff and law enforcement and EMS and all the 911 communicators, all the emergency services. This is an example of 20 fire departments coming together, working as one, and a main goal. This is why it's so important for all the citizens to reach out to your local fire departments, because they are volunteers, to say thank you and help them out, because it's items like this that really makes you thankful that they are there. So they did a great job, and Rodney Cates, please share that with all the emergency service personnel. I think most of the commissioners were keeping an eye on it, watching it. It was right down in my backyard, so it was very touch and go. I got a lot of phone calls. I'm sure the commissioners got a lot of phone calls. So I think they did a wonderful job. I think they put the fire out, had it under control in record time with all that showing up. But I really appreciate everything they did. It's just a great team effort all around. So please pass that on. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Yes, so I'd like to say that I was excited about the presentation and information from Dr. Kinlaw. In 2018, when I co-chaired the quarter-cent sales tax committee, I never thought that I'd get the opportunity to vote on providing the funding for the Workforce Development Center. So it's an honor to be able to do that tonight, and I'll too look forward to that building being built and us moving forward with workforce development in our county. I'd like to echo the comments of Commissioner Travis. As far as our fire departments, I don't live too far from the American Tobacco plant, and that they worked all day and most of the night to get that safe and where it wouldn't continue to flare up. And so we appreciate the hard work from all of our volunteers and our EMS and emergency personnel. This is the second meeting in a row that we've honored emergency personnel for their heroic actions, and I think that just goes to show that we have great people in this county doing heroic things probably every day, and some of them don't get the attention maybe that they deserve because it's gotten to be so routine that they're performing these actions. So we thank you, and our hats are off to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Richardson.
Well, as usual, we like to recognize elected officials, but tonight we don't have any presently serving elected officials visiting this area. We do have two previous members of the Board of Elections, and Tony Reese, who's also a candidate for county commissioner, and Bonnie Ferguson. So we appreciate you folks being there, and we appreciate everyone being here. So somebody mentioned to me early about the litter problem has not gone away. Well, it's not going to go away until everybody gets involved. So if you get a chance to pick up a litter or encourage other folks, or you want to make some money for your charity, get in touch with now Susan Washburn or our county manager, and they'll help you out with that. I'd like to recognize some Rocket Top programs. It's a time of the year where perhaps some seniors are beginning to think about what they're going to do after graduation. And there are programs that they can get involved in Rocket Top, and very good programs, some that will lead to a very lucrative career. And along with that, there will be some job fairs coming up, both at the public schools, but also on April the 13th, RCC is sponsoring a job fair, and I would encourage all parents and interested parties to attend that. And you might find right here in Rockingham County some pretty good career opportunities. On behalf of the Salvation Army, I'd like to publicize that on April 28th, they're going to have a fundraiser dinner. Get in contact with anybody in the Salvation Army, and they can help you either do a sponsorship or buy tickets. I, for one, think the Salvation Army is a most commendable charity here in our county. I particularly like donating to it because I feel like all of my contributions get turned back to the community. Susan, we appreciate having you. I hope you enjoy working and we don't drive you off too quickly. And I hope we can answer your questions sufficiently to allow you to grow in this job. Mr. Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you. And yes, we welcome Susan. We certainly appreciate you, you being here and working with us. We do want to announce we have the free week at the landfill coming up. What are those dates?
Oh, you caught me off guard.
Isn't it this week?
I just saw an email on it.
It's this week. Yes.
Okay, so this coming week, running all week. So as things have gathered around your house, you can clean those out and take it to the landfill this week at no charge for the vast majority of those items.
Right.
So, also want to echo the comments. Mr. Bray, thank you for being here tonight. That airport is vital for economic development. It's vital for our citizens, and anytime we can expand that, it's a great thing for our county. Our next meeting is April the 18th here at the Governmental Center at 6:30. With that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner Powell. Second by Commissioner Hall. All in favor?
All right.
We stand adjourned. Don Mailer.